So, Dr. Schaub, let's move into defining more clearly what fear and anxiety is in terms of how somebody would really experience that. Because I would think a lot of people have
Right,
anxiety as a definition, but really don't know that they do have
right.
it.
Well, fear and anxiety, I don't really discern very much, although there are certainly, when you read up on it, uh, certain definitions for each. But what I noticed in my practice is that some people describe anxiety symptoms but call it fear, and vice versa, simply because that's a word that they, are familiar with or that they just put onto this emotion. But what it feels like, I think all of us know. I mean, I was dealing with anxiety for a long time. It's this inner restlessness, your heart is pounding, you're sweating, you're breathing faster. It can be also like a vigilance that you just feel like, you're constantly looking around for something that goes wrong. Your mind is racing. And then goes further to you cannot sleep, your energy goes down. It's a very slippery slope from chronic anxiety to depression. And then, it can also go into physical symptoms, high blood pressure, chronic pain, I think chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia are very associated with anxiety. So it's a wide spectrum of different symptoms that I think what's so fascinating to watch for me is that the people that come to me with physical symptoms first, they say, I have some chronic pain or something, I want to really understand where it comes from. They are saying they have a long history of anxiety before. So it's almost like the anxiety trying to get your attention, first through your thoughts, then through the emotions, then eventually through the not sleeping, until it really refers or transfers that message into the body. And it's kind of, knocking us over the head and saying, pay attention to me. There's something that's not in balance.
So, can you talk about, because you just mentioned that basically our emotions and our thoughts, they're interrelated with our body. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that from your medical point of view? Because, I mean, it's somewhat accepted, but I think it's still not really integrated in our medical or healthcare system that there is this deep interconnectedness.
Oh, I think it's actually really getting more and more clear. Even, new studies that really show how our emotions and especially anxiety are very, very critical when it comes to healing and also to illness. There was just a few weeks ago a study that showed in patients with breast cancer that people that have actually anxiety and stress after that diagnosis of breast cancer have a significant higher likelihood for the cancer to spread than for people that are more, empowered and relaxed. And they actually found the reason why that, the body in the stress mode is somehow more kind of creating the pathways for cancer cells to be able to spread through the body. It's actually they found on a biochemical level the reasons for stress hormones and stress reactions being able to, unfortunately, more promote the spreading of cancer. So I think it becomes more and more evident that our emotions have a huge impact on our body. I mean, there are classic studies that showed that people that are anxious have a suppressed immune system. Their T lymphocytes are not as active, and people that are, positive and optimistic have a much more strong and vital immune system. And the reason for that is, that certainly neurotransmitters, these stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and so on, they are released, secreted in response to our emotions. So you have a thought, you have a feeling, and then as a response to that, from the brain, these neurotransmitters are released, and they are literally, flowing through your entire body, can reach each and every cell. They are docking onto the cells with so-called receptors. It's like a key and lock system. And then in the cell, certain changes happen. So for example, if stress hormone docks onto the surface of a cell, certain proteins may be activated to be produced in the cell, and can actually literally change how the cell is working and how the cell even looks like. And what's so interesting is that could be the correlate of a cellular memory, where when we take on anxiety as our identity and we have chronic, these chronic stress and chronic fear in us, it is very conceivable that our cells are changing and that this is really, anchored on a cellular level. What's beautiful about the body is it can also reverse the effects. So if you, for example, are creating more calmness or more confidence or more happiness inside of you, a whole different subsets of neurotransmitters is released that are changing then again how your cells are working and also how they are appearing. So it's definitely a reversible effect, but we have to see our mind and body are definitely integrated with each other, and we have to take care of both.
Yeah, and basically, that's part of what we're trying to do with the summit, to really show the options, in terms of integrative medicine, which I believe is the future, that we take
Yes.
the best that all the different fields have to offer and really, have individual medicine or healthcare, depending on whatever a client needs at that time.
Right, exactly.
So
Well, and
let,
with
yeah.
anxiety, it is certainly something that I feel, and this is why it was so important for me also to write the book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, to give people options, to know that you're not just bound to take a pill or you're not helpless when it comes to your emotions. There are very specific things you can do consciously together with your subconscious mind to heal yourself.
Well, let's talk about that, Dr. Schaub, about so what is it, that someone can do that maybe is aware that they have a lot of fear in their life, they have anxiety in their life.
Yeah.
What is it they can do?
Well, I think
Or
the
let me say,
first
let me
thing.
ask this way, yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. What is the first way, first step? Because my experience is a lot of people might know that they have a certain issue, but as you said, it's much easier to just take a pill and push it down or treat the
Yeah,
symptom. And
yeah,
often there's not enough motivation, right, to really be motivated enough to actually make the changes they know they need to make. So what is
yeah.
this first step, this first important step?
Well, I like for people to know first what actually causes anxiety on a subconscious level. Because, when you have awareness, when you know, okay, this is what actually creates anxiety, ultimately, this is how I create anxiety, then you can also learn how to uncreate it. The demotivation comes often from this feeling of, well, there's nothing I can do because it's so complicated. I cannot go into my brain and change something there. So what is there? Where do I have even leverage to change? So when you understand that there are three major root causes for anxiety that usually are present in all people that have anxiety, then okay, if I address these three root causes, I can actually make the changes. And the three root causes are very simple. One is the emotional baggage that we are carrying with us. When people go back in the past and, just any of the listeners that go back into the past and think about an anxious moment, a moment that was maybe traumatic or caused them some kind of stress. If you still feel that moment as you're going back there in your body, maybe you feel a little tense now, or you feel like a little heat rising up from within, on a subconscious level, this event is still associated with emotions. And that means your subconscious hasn't released that. And there may be, hundreds of those events inside of you that are still attached to this emotional baggage. And it's like a pressure cooker. The more you have inside of you of this old emotion, the more you're ready to explode. It's like some little extra anxiety or stress moment comes in, and you feel the entire pressure of all that what you haven't released in the past still inside of you. So it's the threshold of our anxiety is way lower when we have old emotions still stuck in our subconscious, in our cellular memory as well, than if we actually free from this. So that kind of is a fuel often of anxiety. Now,
Right, right.
the second root cause is on a subconscious level that often we are fragmented. This is kind of an inner conflict situation where there is a part of us feeling empowered, feeling adult, feeling motivated, wanting to, make changes, get a new job. And then another part of us feels like completely opposite, insecure, critical, always worried. And we are fighting with ourselves. This is this inner tug of war that goes on back and forth, drains a lot of energy, makes us not being able to make decisions, causes us to feel stuck. That's a very powerful, place to actually work with for people to feel more whole and feel more congruent. And the third one is then that root cause that often is overlooked, which is the identity. What is our inner identity? What are our core beliefs? And a lot of people have limiting beliefs that they have taken on from their childhood. You ask them then, well, do you have any limiting beliefs? No, I don't. I just know that I can never be rich, or I can never, find love, or, I'm just not really good enough. That became their identity. It's not identified anymore as actually a limiting belief. And realizing that when you have anxiety, you usually have either a belief of you not being enough or the world being somehow unsafe. And if you realize that's how I've been operating in my life, that's the filter that has been basically clouding my perspective all my life, changing this belief and really updating your identity on a subconscious level, then you really have been outgrowing your anxiety. And it's about outgrowing it. It's not about getting rid of it. And addressing these three root causes is certainly a very empowering way to deal with anxiety.
Well, let me play the skeptic a little bit here, Schaub. I mean, because you said, well, then, we have these negative emotions, we have these parts within us and these beliefs or identity, and that I totally believe that's true, but can we really change them? Can we make these changes? I mean, is that really possible?
That's the beauty about the mind and the plasticity of the brain, or working with the subconscious mind. I've been working with children starting, 5 years old to adults, in their 80s, and all have the ability to work with the subconscious mind and, really learn to communicate with the subconscious. We are literally, change machines. We can change. Actually, change is inevitable. It happens all the time. We just don't take necessarily the conscious control over our changes. So by working through methods that I describe in the book, for example, you can actually really make any changes, whether you have been, anxious for 20 years or 50 years. Your subconscious actually doesn't, enjoy, when we talk about joy, it doesn't enjoy holding on to anxiety, because it actually, realizes it's very draining. It's something that obviously is also in some ways, having a negative effect on your health, on your body. So your subconscious is more than willing to change, but you have to tell your subconscious, well, first of all, how are we going to change, and what do you want to change into? And these are the things that are often missing. And when you do that, and again, this is not something that's complicated. People can do this very much even on their own. It is a very, very effective way to get a handle on anxiety and see it as a again, a catalyst for growth.